Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fifth podcast for PCN Season 11. I'm Saul Goodman Jr., and I'm joined by the legendary Dorsey, as always.
Hey.
I'm also joined by Boss Artiles.
What's up?
And Exile.
Hey, everybody.
And then we also have Jomo making a return.
What's up, guys?
And then I have the Taco Kid joining me from Benfica.
Hey, I'm the Taco Kid. I use AirPods.
All right. Well, tonight we are going to do 3 parts. We will have first, we're going to be reviewing the transfer window, which was a little bit of a crazy window, especially this season with the new rules. It seemed like everyone seemed to take advantage of them. Then we're going to take a look at the Royal and the Super Cup. And then we're going to follow that up with an age-old debate of what is the deepest position in PCN. First, though, we're going to start with the transfer window. And our first question for our panelists tonight is, which teams really helped their season in the transfer window and why?
Atlanta United. They did some big transfers.
I like whoever that was. I don't know who said that, but I like him.
No, absolutely. I think Talentless for sure was a big transfer for them. Also bringing in APOC. I know their previous keeper, Khan, wasn't having too great of a season and wasn't in great form, so bringing in APOC, who was decent.
Yeah, that was one of the first ones that jumped out at me for those exact reasons. They did lose Kazban and Fuji on the other end, but bringing in Talentless and bringing in APOC, I mean, Talentless, he's doing worlds up there at the striker position this year. Made a change almost seamlessly from outside mid to striker. Are you guys keeping him at that position, Exile?
I don't want to get too much into tactical prowess, but yeah, he will largely feature at striker, yeah.
I think what fascinates me most about Atlanta is they're doing something that no team has done in the entire history of PCN. They are using the loan system like a real-life club. They're signing people to 2-season contracts. They're loaning them out to solid teams in the league below. They know they're going to get play time. They're playing well, and I'm assuming the plan is, bring those guys back next season maybe, but they also have recall clauses so they can potentially bring them back to help them because they don't. Besides those, I was looking at the roster. It's a roster of 17. 5 are out on loan. So it's basically a roster of 12 right now. So I find it fascinating. It's really cool seeing a team finally kind of take advantage of what the loan market could be.
Right, for sure. Another team to kind of bring up in my eyes would be Juve, because with the bringing in of King Evan, and to my understanding, they're also bringing in some players of Minnesota's past now that they're all back.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said was Twinkie and Kessie joining Juve are going to be 2 huge signings for them. Although, bringing in a guy or 2 guys like them this late in the season is always dangerous because you've already got established players. People are, filling roles and we ran into that ourselves. So it's something that could cause an issue, but that to me is the best.
Yeah, they're on my list as well. I don't see the issues just because Italiano knows these guys, and I think the plan all along. I know for sure Kessie was to come back, and I think maybe Twinkie eventually got in there. But yeah, they added Evan, they added Compton for depth. Realm's also kind of self-imposed a ban. He's just recently come back. So that's 5 new players to a team that's undefeated in June and has really taken off in this kind of middle part of the season. So watch out for them. I think they've really done what they can to strengthen themselves for the title run.
Yeah, that's really a case of the rich getting richer there. I think they've added some great pieces that have already gone around the squad that's playing quite well. So you got to think that that's going to only bolster their title aspirations a little bit more. Another squad that I was paying attention to, not in the Super League, in the League One, is actually Monaco. They're doing a lot. They're also there's a rumor that AS stands for
Atlanta Subs.
Atlanta Subs. That's right. And I think that's playing true even more now. We saw P Squared Preston go down there. There was also, they picked up Zone and Scarata, he was on Atlanta for a little while, right, Exile?
Yeah, he's still signed for Atlanta.
So he's loaned down there. And then they picked up a Lazio player in Stick Up Your Ass. Can't mess with that name. It's wonderful that it hasn't gotten banned yet. But they're adding some pieces. And they also kind of did an addition by subtraction, at least in, I think, most of PCN's eyes, is getting rid of Nozzle. The former manager, now no longer with the squad. He went to America. So I think people with Super League experience now joining a Monaco squad, I think that's sitting in the top 5, could really push them up even further.
Let the record show that Nozzle got nozzled.
Yeah, I think another team that did benefit from the Atlanta loans kind of exodus as well was the Dortmund getting Fuji and Khan. Khan obviously on a free transfer, and then Fuji on loan. They're on a really good run. They're up to second place in the league. They're playing really well. And then I think two other teams for me in League One. I don't know too much about the specific players they got, but RB Leipzig and LAFC both very active in the window. Both teams sitting there in mid-table, but not too far out of the playoff spot. And I think it looks like they kind of had some targets that they identified and decided to go after. And I think I wouldn't expect it. I expect at least one of those teams to kind of push on and maybe get into that top 6 by the end.
On the League Two side of it, the biggest mover down there, in my opinion, was FC Porto, who recently, I think, Ray Kong just recently took over them as manager. And through free agency and transfers, he's really got them turned around. He brought in King Alex from Barcelona and Slickster from Fiorentina, so pulling from some of the teams that are already at the top of the league.
He also pulled in 2 players from PSV as well to add to that, so he's definitely making some moves over there. Who else did you have, Gemma?
Fiorentina. They brought in It's the Hound from PSG and Master Spankman from Celtic, so I guess trying to fill some of the gaps that they transferred out.
Yeah, I was going to bring them up later so we can discuss that, but I think with whatever they're bringing in, they also have some pieces moving out. So we'll touch on that a little bit later. I know I flagged them for a later discussion. Any other teams that you think really benefited from this transfer window?
I think I'd be remiss if we didn't bring up Ericsson going to AC Milan, the team who has a stockpile of already extremely talented players, brings in the greatest striker to ever play in PCN. I don't want to just gloss over that completely, but it's a big pickup for them.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, yeah, we're figuring out exactly what the best lineup is with him in there. But we didn't really lose much in the window. Rio went out on loan, playing too much. That's kind of something he wanted to do. And then we kept everyone else we kept our depth, and then we added a striker like Eric. So just got to make it work. That's the biggest thing. It's got to figure out the chemistry, got to figure out the formation, who's playing where, doing what.
All right. Well, we will move on to the second question regarding the transfer window. Which teams are you surprised didn't do more? Someone that you think may have needed a little bit more help, either offensively or defensively, or maybe in net, but didn't quite go out and do much.
My selection was Manchester United. A team like that who puts out a talented squad, but is just not getting the results. I know they brought in Toxicity, which is an upgrade for them, but I would have thought that they would do more to bolster the squad instead of just trying to go with what they had. And I'm sure that they'll do well in the second half, but I have to wonder why that didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely fair. They're sitting with 31 goals for, 37 against. You would think they would bring in some more defensive. I mean, Toxicity can do a fair amount back there, but he can't do it all by himself. You think they'd bring in something to bolster that defense a little bit more?
Yeah, and we played them twice on Sunday. We played them in the league and then the Royal Cup. And I think we scored 7 goals in the 2 games, and just really was too easy to get in on them for a Super League defense. So but also they had to have Caveman in goal, which meant that they had not an ideal goalkeeper, and it meant that they didn't have Caveman in defense. So I think definitely the Toxicity move will help, but I agree. I think they could have maybe done a little bit more to help out the back there.
A big surprise for me, looking at kind of the bigger transfers in Super League, was Tottenham. Their only signing that seemed to be worthy of mentioning would be Lucid, coming from Lazio. I know that him and Ace are pretty close, but I know he wasn't playing as much as he wanted, so that's why he moved there. But Tottenham started off their season pretty hot, and as of late just haven't been in the greatest of form, but they're still hanging in top 6, so I was kind of thinking that maybe they would change some things around in order to kind of give them that final push in the second half of the season.
Yeah, that was another team I flagged as well. Again, defensively, if they're going to make a run at this, right? You look at the 5 teams above them currently, all have better defenses. All of them do. Lazio's close. They only have 2 less goals allowed. So I think not making a move and then losing their keeper, who's been pretty much a stud all season, I think that's really going to hurt them running down the line.
I think the one thing that we're missing here with Tottenham is that people are talking about a skid, and really they haven't. I mean, in the last 10, they've had three or 2 draws or 2 losses and 1 draw, I think. I'm not looking at it at the moment, but they haven't really had a massive skid. They've been playing really well, and they replaced APOC with Jeepers, who is still in his own right a great goalkeeper in the league. So it's not. I wouldn't say that they didn't do much. I mean, they brought in Lucid, but their team has been fairly solid, and I wouldn't sleep on them. I know that they run a 4-3-3 similar to the one that we were running, and so it's interesting to see them not make bigger changes, but at the same time, I'm not sure that they need them with Tarala coming back and getting Jeepers in instead of APOC. I think they'll be fine.
Another team that I'm like really concerned why they didn't do any more transfers is Leon, because they lost their Cam Air Jesus to Sevilla, and then of course, as said by Exile, they lost their goalkeeper Jeepers.
Yeah, they made one of the most interesting moves of the window, I think, which was replacing Jeepers with Jay-Z, who had some okay stats in League 2, but it's not like he was, and I haven't played with him or against him, so I'm not going to knock him as a player, but you expected they went down 2 leagues to get a goalie to replace someone as established as Jeepers, that he would have just like incredible, 8 saves a game, keeping clean sheets, and he doesn't necessarily have that. So I think that's a risk for Leon making that swap, but I imagine they have the reasons to do it, so see how it pays off.
How about from the League One side? Any ones that really surprised you?
I know that Frankfurt has kind of been floating around top 4, and I know they brought in Pure Vegetable on a loan, and I think that's kind of a big deal. I'm not sure about his form as of late. I haven't looked into it, but I know that he's overall been known as a pretty top-tier GK, so that should be a pretty big move for them. But besides that, I don't really see what else they were doing to push.
Yeah, they also loaned Brutal from me. Right back, solid, a bit aggressive, but learning this trade, and he's from Tottenham, was sharing starting minutes and wanted to get first team minutes all season. So when he came in, we loaned him basically immediately to Frankfurt to get him that time. So I don't know if Frankfurt was having an issue defensively, but they shouldn't now.
I think for me, at least on the surface, Real Madrid, if they really want that automatic promotion, I don't think they did enough. They did lose Evan. I don't think Waznico was really playing, but obviously that's a quality player who moved up to Super League. There's rumors, I think I've heard from several people about Peter Savage. I don't know his deal, but there's at least rumors there of him wanting to leave or trying to leave or something like that. They added Vaccine, but Vaccine hasn't really played for a few months. And Vape never ended up leaving. But I think overall for a team that was touted as the League One champions 2 months before the season began, and still I think wants to do that and get that team back up. To me, they didn't do enough in the window.
Right. Well, I can confirm that Peter was in the Dortmund camp at least all night last night, giving a look. But I believe the word is that Dad Job's not going to release him, so he might be remaining there. And I think that's we were going to be really happy to get him, but he's also 2-time Team of the Week so far this season. So I didn't really expect Real Madrid to just let him go.
I heard that Peter was also looking to make a move to Chelsea instead of Dortmund, simply based on the fact that Dortmund's contingent with running a 4-back, and Peter normally doesn't like running into a 4-back.
Well, at the end of the day, it's up to Dad Job.
Yeah.
Because he didn't move in the window when he could have and may have missed out.
Yeah, he waited till the game Sunday night, and it didn't go well. But, I think they're worth mentioning because they lost King Evan, who was really coming to form at Cam with them, and I think they expect that Raven's going to kind of start playing better for him, but there's no guarantees, and they didn't really make any other moves to bring anyone major in that could really help them now.
I mean, Raven in seasons past has shown that, he can definitely step into Cam and get the job done, but I don't, like you were saying, think that he is that missing link there.
Well, Raven's been solid for us. I think he's been doing what he can do. At one point, we were at, 7th place, 6th place, I think it was. He came in, helped us at least get to top 4.
Yeah, he definitely been making a push over there, sitting in 3rd right now. Orlando's tough right now. They're a really good squad, and they're hard to beat. So it's gonna be interesting if they slip up at all down this run. I just feel like, even at Dortmund, we were hoping to add some pieces just to try and challenge Orlando because they don't seem to make many mistakes, and they score an awful lot of goals.
Shout out to Diggs.
Right. How about the League Two squads?
I think there wasn't as much movement overall. I kind of expected a few more teams that are below that top 4 right now to kind of make some moves, but they didn't. So I don't know if I kind of see that top 4 staying. Maybe not the exact order, but I kind of see those top 4 teams staying in there. I don't think Wolves and Barcelona thought they needed to make moves. Fiorentina mentioned earlier they did make a couple additions, but I think, like you said, there's also some things we can get to later on them. And then Napoli have just kind of been all over the place. But I do think in the end they kept more of the key players than I think some people maybe thought they would a few weeks ago.
Yeah, they definitely they played us well when we played them, because I think we played them the immediate week after the last podcast. They're still a very strong squad. They impressed me. Wolves has lost quite a few pieces throughout the season. I wouldn't say they're as tough as they were. They're still clearly a top team, but I think you're right. You're going to see some movement there. It seems like in League Two, it was either you were making moves and you were getting it done, or you didn't really do anything. Us at Atletico Madrid, we're kind of in that camp. We didn't make too many transfer moves, which that's on me. But our core's still there. Doesn't look like anybody from Newcastle made any adjustments, Ajax or Celtic. It's really you either made moves or you didn't in League Two.
All right, well, let's move on to the third question regarding transfer. Who was hurt the most during this transfer window? Who lost the most pieces and is just really going to be struggling to do anything moving forward?
I think New York is a team to bring up. I know Winnie's kind of been struggling with them over there, but he moved over to Liverpool. At least playing with him on Cartel, he's pretty effective when he's got a good group of guys around him that can feed him the ball. So I think losing him up top will be a massive blow to NYC, especially now that they're trying to fight to get out of relegation zone. Also, losing players like Compton and Vaccine doesn't really help that case either, although I know they did bring in several other players that could do the job.
Yeah, that was one of the squads that I flagged. They're obviously not doing too well this season, and I think some of the players got frustrated and went to find a more happy camp. It's tough to see, but hopefully they find something that brings them in, brings new talent in, or brings new people in.
Another crazy transfer to bring up was one shot from River Plate that's sitting in 20th, going up to Lazio's camp that's sitting in 3rd. I've seen one shot play often, and I know that he's not the greatest of center backs, but he's definitely got a lot of potential to be great. So seeing him make a big jump like that from a low team that seems to need him is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think Lazio did it. We didn't really touch on them earlier, because most people look at them and think like they did okay. They added depth on the defense, CDM and center back with one shot and Casbo, and they lost Lucid and Carlos, but I think they were already replacing them. So I think they did all right. And yeah, it is strange to see a team like River Plate losing arguably one of their best players, just selling him. That's a team that's been shipping goals at a really crazy rate lately. And it's just that is a strange move to see, I think. Also, I don't know how many people they lost specifically in the window, but it's just been throughout the whole season. PSG, there's just been so much turnover, so much turmoil, so many players just leaving, and it just kind of it hurts to see. And they didn't add, they added some pieces here and there, but I think this is gonna be a fight for PSG. I think this is gonna be one of Stay High's kind of most challenging seasons, and it's just the amount of people that keep leaving before the window and during the windows. That's got to be tough to deal with.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, and it looks like they have at least 10, maybe 13 people that have either been released or transferred out so far. They've only brought in 3 to replace them. It's been a really tough season for Stay High. If he avoids relegation, I will say, this season, I would say that's a huge accomplishment, because just the amount of turmoil he's had. He hasn't had a consistent squad all season. Currently sitting in 16th. Defense is really struggling. Offense is all right, I guess, but that's going to be a tough end of the season for him, I would say.
What is the record for most co-managers for one manager to have in a season? That's not a knock on Stay High, because it seems like he's just not only losing players, but when you have a managerial setup that is constantly cycling in and out, it's cause for concern for sure. But I mean, how many has he had? 5 co-managers this season?
4 or 5, something like that. Yeah, I don't know. It's not something we've ever tracked, but I have to say probably 5 or 6 is probably about as many we've ever had in one team.
Yeah, and it's
a lot.
Tough. I can only imagine for him. Having played with him last season, I know he's a great guy. And I hate to see this happening to him, but at the same time, you watch some of the selections, and it's frustrating to say the least. But I hope they turn it around. I hope he's able to right the ship. But it looks like it's going to be a tough second half for them.
Yeah, I will say to his credit, the only thing I ever hear about Stay High are good things. I've never heard anyone speak extremely poorly of him. Everyone says he's such a good guy. He deserves a title, kind of thing. So it is tough to watch him go through this type of season and struggle the way his squad's been struggling so far.
Yeah, nobody ever has anything bad to say about Stay High. But I did make a prediction for season 13 League 2 champions to be PSG, so...
Oof.
Tough.
That's real tough. Any League 1 teams that were hurt the most during this transfer window?
Definitely Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming from King Evan, a guy that was kind of joking about leaving. You really don't know what you expect from him, but from his past tendencies of like leaving like 3 teams a season, you kind of expect it, and then he just leaves when we're getting stuff rolling, and it's just like, oh wow.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder how long that was in the works, because he went to a squad he's familiar with and a squad that was picking up a lot of pieces in this week. So I can't imagine it was something that he yeah, I'm going to leave now that we're playing good. I think this might have been, not to put words in his mouth, but I think this might have been planned for quite a while now.
Well, it's an odd move for me because he was playing Cam, right? I assume he wanted to play Cam and get away from center back for a little bit and try his trade at somewhere else. And then he does that and then still falls into the old behavioral pattern and goes back to center back, which is fine. I mean, it's his choice, but it is interesting to see that kind of move when he was playing well at Cam, by all accounts.
I think that move just kind of comes into what we tied in earlier with, Italiano knowing these guys and, them all having previous links together. And I think that's kind of how that fell into place with Evan being okay with his dropping back to center back.
Right, some familiarity there.
Yeah, I think for me, kind of the biggest, I don't know if they've lost much really in terms of talent or players, but the teams in that relegation battle that didn't just get new managers. So Marseille and Wolfsburg have recently got new managers, and they're both already playing a bit better than the previous regimes were. And so I think the teams like Roma, Chivas, I know we're down there, like those teams that didn't really make moves, I think are losers in this sense that the teams around them have improved just by virtue of they are no longer defaulting and they have decent managers and teams in there now. So those teams they really need to improve their form or they're going to get sucked down in there.
Right, and I agree with that. In any sense, a team that's battling that relegation zone but picks up new management, with new management comes new players, new connections. So those teams are going to most likely increase their talent and make a push.
Yeah, there looks to be about 6 teams in that relegation battle for League 1, and some of them made a little bit of moves and some of them didn't make any. So it'll be interesting to see how Marseille and Roma progress as well, because they basically split their squads and then they both started doing terrible. So
yeah, and Marseille did just get replaced. So
yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting that Marseille was kind of mid-table and then they split, and then both teams just kind of sank. But that's the risk when you split a squad like that.
How about League 2? Resident expert Jomo, do you have any teams that you think were really hurt?
I would say they hurt themselves about not having any transfers in, and that would be your bottom 3 there, Everton, Sporting, and Ajax. PSV made a move for Coutinho from Frankfurt, so he's a solid player. Again, Porto's made their moves. But yeah, that bottom 3, obviously there's no relegation, but they didn't make any moves at all.
Yeah, the team I flagged, actually you flagged earlier, was Fiorentina. I know they did bring in a defender over there, but word on the street is that they're losing both of their strikers in Elements of God and Fear Eriksson, both of which have been playing well in League 2. Losing those type of pieces without bringing in someone else to be that offensive production is going to be tough. It's going to be really tough.
Yeah, they were on my list as well because it hasn't happened yet, but from all understanding is that those moves are pretty much going to happen. And, Elements hasn't been there all season, but Eriksson has, and I think that team is still in the top, maybe leading League 2 in goals, but if not, they're still very close to it. So that's been a big reason why they've been able to push on and make a run for that League Two promotion. And yeah, you drop both your strikers, and maybe somebody else. I've heard other people saying things aren't quite as happy there as it may look on the outside. So, I wouldn't count out the manager, Jinnel, or Mash and Cheeks, whoever he's going by today. He's been there for 3 seasons. He knows what he's doing, but this will be probably his biggest challenge. And that he's got a good team, but there may be some fracturing going on inside.
I have heard that rumor as well.
It'll be interesting to see how that plays out and what they do to replace him. I can confirm, Dorsey, you are correct, that they do have the top offense in League Two, 55 goals for, an astounding 40 goals against those. So they've got the worst defense of that top 3. Even you go all the way out to top 6, and they're still the worst. So losing those offensive pieces, well, not necessarily. I mean, they brought in one defender, so maybe that's their game plan, play a little bit more defensive. It's going to be difficult for them, I'd say, for sure, to maintain that ranking. All right, well, we'll move on to our last topic for the transfer window, which was what was the biggest move during the transfer window and why? Kind of an opinion question, but let's see what you guys got.
I'm going to go ahead and shout out our newest addition to Benfica, which would be 5'6" Poppy coming to us from Inter, which me being in the Benfica camp was less, I'd say I was very surprised with that move, simply because I wasn't expecting a player from Inter to come join us. And, he's a very influential defensive mid, so.
Yeah, he might be the pairing partner for Rambo that y'all have been looking for a little bit. I mean, you've had good players in there, but he's a very solid one.
Oh, Rambo's the man.
5'6" is one that I had written down. I mean, he's a very good DM, and it's to me it sucks as an opposing manager to see a guy of that quality go to the opposition. But he's a great player, and good for him for going to Benfica.
Another one that I flagged was APOC, and Exile, you can talk about that one because he did come to your squad, but I think providing that keeper in the back who's been really came on the scene last season, now kind of proving that he was worthy of that hype he got towards the end of season 10. I think that's really going to help you guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, APOC's a huge addition. I don't want to take anything away from Khan, as he's been doing well for us as well. I mean, you see the PER rankings; he was top 5 as well. So it's not like he's been a poor keeper. That's not why we made that move. But as far as APOC, he's very talented, very good player. But as far as I'm concerned, the 2 moves I made were equally big. I don't want to single out APOC for being a bigger move, but I'm glad he's on the team. Glad he joined.
Yeah, the other move being talentless coming over.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at their PER scores, both of them are top in their respective positions. It seems like a no-brainer for me to find 2 guys that are obviously in the upper echelon of their positions and, seamlessly set them into our squad in a way that they will fill the exact role. I mean, Talentless was a guy that has fit in perfectly. I mean, he brings a little bit of levity to the parties that only Taco Kid can do otherwise. So, we need that kind of light-hearted, light-natured kind of personality. And then, APOC's all business when it comes down to it. So, those are 2 huge signings, which obviously I have a bias there, but that's just, to me, they were no-brainers.
So Talentless is going to be playing striker in a 3-4-3 for y'all?
He said he wasn't going to disclose.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk about formational aspects of the team, but I would be shocked if he did not show as striker a handful of times for the rest of the season.
And I think for me, it's Twinkie going to Juve because he, like Kessie, I think he helps in the attack. I think Evan gives them another center back, but the Twinkie addition and then Realms coming back as well. The 2 of them are now going to play DM together. It means Juve's going to switch to 3-5-2 full time. And the last 2 seasons these 2 have played together at DM, season 9 River Plate, they won the title. Season 10, we're not going to mention the team, but they were on a team that was playing very well. These 2 know how to play together. To me, that's the best DM combo that's been in existence in this league, really, at any point, the 2 of them at their peak. So Twinkie going to Juve, that's the one for me.
I think the one for me is Eriksson going to Milan. I think that was like a huge boost in their confidence and their play and just like brought them to the top. As we know, they're number one right now, and I think they do real damage. Hopefully, they're staying first.
That's the plan.
Hopefully it all goes according to plan. The one I think could be a dark horse, at least in my mind, is a League One squad, Valencia picking up the former Milan player in Rio. They're sitting currently in 5th. They don't have a ton of goals for. They definitely could see some improvement on the offense. Their defense isn't awful. It's kind of middle of the pack. I think by adding Rio, and hopefully he's in form in that striker position, you could see them really make a run at that top 2, top 3. It'll be interesting to see going down the line how he fits into that Valencia squad, but it could be a huge boost for them.
Fuji going to Dortmund, to me, is going to make a difference there. He's a solid player and a good guy, so I expect that to go well.
Yeah, we just need his internet to work. We tried to get him to play on Sunday, and he kept disconnecting from every game right away, so we couldn't play him. But if he gets his internet fixed and he stops borrowing Ricky's internet, we would be good to go.
When Ricky was at Dortmund in season 6, he just left little bits of the Wi-Fi there, and every once in a while a player just gets infected by it.
Yeah. Fuji's definitely heavily infected. He could not stay connected for longer than a minute. It was definitely Ricky-esque. So, all right. Well, we will move on to our next topic, which is a quick review of Royal Cup and then also a preview of the matchups to come. Very brief recap. In Group A, Chelsea and Valencia are moving forward. Group B, AC Milan and Leverkusen are moving forward. Group C, Benfica and Manchester United are moving forward. And Group D, Inter Milan and Tottenham are moving forward. Of those teams, which teams really surprised you? Or on the other end, teams that got eliminated, which teams surprised you that they didn't make it to the next knockout round?
I think in our group, Man City, I think on talent, played us the toughest in our games, and it was a really tight group. It basically came down to the final day for who would advance. I know it's not a team. I was in Meet Party the other day, and his guys aren't super jazzed about playing the 3 games. I wonder if maybe that was a thing where they got to the cup games and they just didn't quite give it the same overall effort. Although when they played us, like I said, both games, they were really tight and tough. But outside of our group, I think I was most surprised in a good way by Valencia. Pretty tough group. And, like I said, they've been playing well in League One, but not overly well. And so for them to get through, and they also gave Inter a first decent game in the first leg of their matchup knockout round. And then I think Monaco on the other end, they played 7 Super League teams and cups this season, and they have 7 losses. So while they're playing well in League One, it shows they're maybe not quite ready for big time yet. Although, with the manager change, maybe that's a new squad. Maybe things will change.
Yeah, I have to second on Valencia getting through. Just looking at their group, the way it panned out, especially with Dortmund being as in form as they are. That group really just came down to goal differential, and they held out with only allowing 5 goals.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say in my squad's defense is that for the cup games, apparently Leak, I won't say he doesn't take them seriously because we definitely try, but we're a little bit more flexibility in the cup games where we'll try to run a 3-5-2 or try to play people at different positions just to see how it works. So that there's a chance that played a part in it, but we definitely wanted to move forward, and it is a little upsetting that we didn't get enough points. So credit to Valencia for having that goal differential and being able to move forward. It'll be interesting to see how they do on Inter Milan. You said they played well in that first leg. They have that second leg coming up as well.
So does Dortmund not friendly? Why are you guys testing new things in cups?
You'd have to ask Leak, but no, he doesn't believe in friendly. It's new to me. Every squad I've been on before this has friendlied before games, and I used to, on Lazio, set up friendlies well in advance to make sure that we had people to play. He doesn't like it. He likes to get his African music going, and sometimes when he's angry, it becomes Christmas music. So he'll get that going, and we'll be playing random people, and we just kind of go with it. But it seems to be working, so I'm not going to try and mess with what he's got going on.
I mean, my surprise, by the way, is Leverkusen, the fact that they advanced. So I don't want to piggyback on what Dorsey said, but I assumed City would move through over Leverkusen, but it's not to be.
Yeah, I think outside of those two, there really wasn't too many surprises. You kind of saw the better teams in Super League advance. No like huge Super League powerhouse got knocked out early. So I think it was kind of what people expected, I guess, outside of those two. Or maybe three if you make the case for Monaco not doing well. And so let's take a look at the matchups moving forward in the knockout rounds. We already talked on Valencia versus Inter. Manchester United is playing AC Milan. Chelsea's playing Leverkusen, and Benfica is playing Tottenham. Of those matchups, who do you guys really are excited for to watch?
Well, we've already had the first leg, so unfortunately none of the games are super tight after the first round. Every game is at least 2 goals in favor of, I think, what you would consider the favorites on paper. But I do think Chelsea Leverkusen, to me, is the most interesting one in the next leg. I think Leverkusen have those games in them, especially with the little bit new looking team under Thon. To me, that's the one I'm kind of looking for next Sunday.
The game I'm looking for is Benfica Tottenham. I know they're down 3-0, but after having gotten smacked twice by Benfica and then previously beating Benfica, so they know they can do it, it would be one that I would like to see that as a potential comeback. I don't think it'll happen, but it would be really nice. So I'm looking forward to watching them play.
Yeah, I'll have to go ahead and hop into that conversation as well. You know, being on Benfica, like you said perfectly, they did beat us early on in the season, showing that, you know, they have what it takes to give us a good match. And, you know, going into the first leg, it was really just like, we got to show them what we're made of, and we got to show them that, you know, we can just walk in there and get the job done. And that's exactly what we did. So going to that second leg, I think we're pretty confident, but also still very aware that Spurs is not a team to just look past.
Yeah, I will say I'm looking for just on my end of Milan. I'm not sleeping on United. We got the 2-goal. We gave up a stupid late goal to go 4-2 in that first leg. But I was on a Man City team a couple seasons ago that lost 3-0 in a knockout first leg against them, and then won 4-0 in the second. And it's a lot of the same people, and I know they haven't forgotten how that felt. Knowing that can be done, knowing that you can overturn 3 goals in a knockout. I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to close that game out, but I'm not counting it over by any means.
For sure, and I think we touched on it earlier briefly that Man U's just been having a little bit of trouble getting people to show up. Therefore, they're having to shift some players around. So maybe if they can get a solid squad on game night, that could be a different story.
All right, well, let's shift our attention to the League Cup, and I feel like this is a question that's already really answered. But which results in the League Cup have surprised you so far?
The Fiorentina upset is the number one that comes to mind.
I was waiting for someone to say it. I mean, I didn't want to just come out and say it. But Fiorentina, League 2, taking down the Super League powerhouse in AC Milan. I mean, how is that not the most surprising thing we've seen? Dorsey, what happened?
Well, if you watched the first ever PCN live cup draw last week, you got a little bit of analysis, but I'll expand upon that. They played us well. They played us really well. I'd say we had more chances, but they almost outplayed us because they forced us into a high tempo, high risk kind of game. They just from the very beginning, they took control of it, and they had a bunch of really great last-ditch defending efforts. Their goalkeeper was playing well for when we did get close, but they were really just like setting us up to fail. And it's like we just never. It's not that we didn't even take them seriously like you would maybe think. And we knew by halftime we were in a dogfight. We just couldn't get that goal in, and then penalties, they swept us 3-0. And then you look at on Sunday, they lose 5-1 to Barcelona, conceding 5 goals in a game. So it's like, on one hand, we can't be anything but disappointed, but on their day, they showed they've got a really good team in them. And they got Bayern in the next round, and Bayern's a very inconsistent team. They beat Arsenal 3-0, but they can also, that's a very hot and cold team. So, I mean, Fiorentina could be in the quarters. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, outside of that game, there were really 2 other games that I think were pretty surprising as far as the results. Thankfully, we do have Real Madrid representative in here because they took down Lazio in penalties. A little bit of a surprise. I mean, everyone believes Real Madrid's a solid squad and they're doing well in League One. But Lazio's second place in Super League, and that game went to penalties. So how'd you do it, boss?
Oh, this is a fun time. So what happened was we were just coming off a loss in the League Cup. We shook it off. It came in steaming hot, got a score. We think it was like closer to the 90th minute. We finally got a score, and then we were in extra time, and then we scored another one. And then one of our players was trying to clear the ball, slid tackle a player from Lazio, and then that's what brought us to pens. But luckily, he made it up for it because he made the game-winning pen.
Fair enough. The other one I think is surprising, I believe we'll get Jomo to talk on this, was Sporting CP, who is in second to last in League Two, took down Wolverhampton, the leaders in League Two.
That was awesome. They beat Chivas, and then they went and played Wolves to a 1-0 win, which is very surprising. Still not going to drink the Kool-Aid. I think it ends against Orlando, but well done to them for the Cinderella run.
Yeah, that's going to be a really tough game for them. And if they pull that one out, I mean, I think everyone will be rooting for them to make that run.
Yeah, we should definitely make that the marquee matchup. I'll tune in for that.
I don't know about that. I mean, we do have a Manchester derby, so
It's a really, I mean, there's a bunch of really good matchups that snakes around.
Yeah, well, that's a great segue for my next question. So I thank you guys. Which round of 16 matchup are you most excited about? There's quite a few good ones. Which ones kind of pique your interest?
although I don't play for United and PCN, seeing a Manchester derby is always interesting to me. And they're both sitting so close in the table right now that, it could go either way. City did lose to Man U in Super League 4-2, so they'll be looking to get them back here now because this is the next time that they're playing them after that.
I would agree. I said I want to see Sporting on the marquee matchup. That's just more out of curiosity. But the Manchester derby would be nice. And then also Juve against Atlanta. Those are probably going to be the two closest games I would suspect as far as talent-wise.
Oh, yeah, Juve Atlanta.
Yep, and Juve had to get through Benfica the last round, and then they get Atlanta right off the bat next time. Exile, how did your first game kind of go against them this season?
Well, it's almost like your draws for these cups are set out to put Juve against us, and then Benfica, and then Inter. Because the preseason cup, our run was we played Juve, we beat them 1-0, and then we played Inter and lost 1-0, and then they played Benfica and they won 1-0 or whatever it was. It's crazy. I was like, this is insanity to have that string of games that you have to go through. My team was like 2 weeks built, and I'm trying to put this thing together. It was pretty insane. But as far as this goes, I mean, we did beat them in the preseason cup, but they smacked us around in Super League. We were trying to do some things tactically that I'll own that. I made a mistake, honestly. We tried to change something and it didn't work, and unfortunately, they punished us pretty easily. So we are obviously looking for revenge, but at the same time, like, we're going to play them the way I know we can play them, and I believe that we'll come out on top. But I'm looking forward to that game and only that game, because every other game honestly doesn't matter to me at this point.
Yeah, notable mention in the grand scheme of things for this round of 16 would be Dortmund and Tottenham. Tottenham's being top 6 in Super League, and Dortmund pretty much running second for most of League One and seeming to be playing very well. That'll be an interesting game to watch to see if Dortmund can really step up and show that they got that talent to be up there.
Yep, that was on my list as well. And I think the other really interesting League One Super League matchup is Madrid getting one easy team in Lazio and is following up with another easy team in Inter Milan.
Oh, yeah, easy.
If y'all don't know, that is pure sarcasm. So
yes.
Listen, I'm excited. So excited to play them.
Yeah, I really think there's maybe one or two mismatches in this round. I think every other game, at least on paper, you could maybe not coin flip, but I think you could see either team winning.
Orlando's beating Sporting.
Yeah, I don't want to call it now, but that one could be a bloodbath. I just
I'm calling it upset alert.
I don't want to call it.
I'm calling it.
I would love to see the upset, and I would put it on my mixer and just watch it, because I don't think it's going to be a marquee matchup. But that one, that could be tough.
I could see if Sporting beats Orlando being the biggest upset out of any of those teams.
I'd go back and rewatch it. I would.
I would say that would be bigger than Fiorentina and Milan, personally.
Yeah.
You got bottom of League Two versus a team that pretty much everyone considers to be a Super League team hanging out in League One. All right. Well, we will move on to the last question of the night, kind of an opinion question, and I don't think we'll resolve it, but we'll have an interesting debate, which is which position is the deepest in PCN and why is that?
Oh, I'll go ahead and just step in here and resolve it straight away, saying that center back is the deepest and most passionate group of position players in this league.
That's not at all because you run CB Nation, right?
No, not at all because I happen to run CB Nation. No, no.
I'm a striker, and that's exactly what I answered was center back. They just, it just seems like that the people who identify themselves as a center back truly know what they're doing at the position.
Yeah, I answered CDM because even if it's anecdotal, everybody I've looked into or tried to sign, they seem to all play CDM, every single one of them. And so, I play outside mid and CDM. So there's always kind of like that's their secular position or tertiary position, and I'm just like, every single person on the planet plays CDM. It seems like.
You're breaking out all these big words, and our users just gonna be like, "What the hell is he saying?"
You know, some of us can only play CDM. Okay, you know what? We're not trying to be a winger hiding a DM. Some of us literally would not see the field at any other position. So, but yeah, I kind of agree with both those. I think DM has the highest like top tier. I don't know if it has like the overall depth that center back does, but I think the like elite DMs is the most like the biggest group of any position.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
CB, I think, is deeper than that. I don't think it has the same top end consistent people though as DM does right now.
I mean,
but
yeah,
when you kind of those would be that's my argument on that.
Yeah, I mean, when you throw out some top DM names, you got Dorsey, Darcy, Jammy, Rambo, and then compared to some of the center backs out there that are amazing, like Austin, Low Perps.
I think the deepest position is Cam. Cam is really, really, really tough for someone just to, know what everything is going on in the field, and you basically have to be the quarterback of a soccer team.
Yeah, but everybody wants to play Cam or striker.
Yeah.
And they make it so hard. Like FIFA has literally made it impossible to want to play Cam. You have to like be a ride or die Cam in order to play it in this FIFA. So I don't know if it's the deepest. That would be.
Did you want a 2.6 position rating? Play Cam.
Did you mean you wanted to play left back?
Left back.
No, I mean, what would your list of Cams be, though? I struggled to make one that's really deep.
Well, see, most top teams are going to have like a good Cam, like I would say Perfect Mode, Avols. I'll say Goat Last. Goat Last is a pretty good Cam. And even Raven, I like those people, I give credit to them for playing that position because it's really really hard. You got to rely on your strikers, your CDMs, and your wingers, and it's just like, oh wow, like these guys are trying to be the best they can, and they got to rely on so many people.
Oh yeah, you also can't forget to throw Swifties into the mix there.
Oh yeah, forget about Swifty.
Yeah, if I were to answer this question, I would probably go with CB or CDM, and I think one thing that has to do with that is the meta was being 3-5-2 this FIFA, so you get 3 center backs, and there's just more opportunities for them to find a good position. And then I think they made defense a little bit easier in this, a little bit harder to score in FIFA 19. It would be interesting to see whether that changes in FIFA 20. But I just think that allows for the possibility of deeper positions on the defensive end. And I think when I was on Lazio and we were looking for a striker, like a quality striker, we tried every stone we could find. And it's not easy to find, a top tier striker. So I think anywhere in that striker or cam position, I don't think it's quite as deep as CB and CDM are this FIFA. That could change next FIFA easily.
Yeah, I think striker especially, FIFA 18, we saw Orlando Pirates scoring 130 goals in Super League. We saw a lot of teams getting 2 goals a game at least. In League One, there was a striker golden boot race where they finished with 45 and 50. And I don't think it's necessarily that all those strikers have become terrible. I think it's just, like you were saying, it's either the defense is a little bit easier or just, to me, it's more that they've made offense a lot more difficult. They made shooting more inconsistent. They made first touches just so bad. I think we've all yelled the game, cursed at the game for that. See,
Yeah,
I
first
don't know.
touches.
Yeah, I don't know if strikers are that much weaker than they have in the past. I think it's just they're all struggling to an extent this FIFA, and so the ones who have consistently scored in each season on this FIFA, I think those guys are super valuable to have on your team.
Yeah, I don't think that's an either or. You know, they didn't make striking harder, or they didn't make defensive easier, so they made strikers harder. I think, you know, they made it a little bit harder to actually attack with those first touches and some of the just overall graphics that occur from playing the ball, and that makes defense easier. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree partially on that because I think it's just a matter of this FIFA, there was a bigger change in the systematic side of striking. So therefore, all the people that are striking well this season have been hitting the arena a lot more and practicing their time finishing and things like that. Because first time finishing, if you can hit a green light from top of the box, it's pretty lethal this year. And you can kind of go off of that with volleys as well. But again, it's just really hard to get that nice green light and to really be great at doing it consistently.
Yeah,
I, for one, do not use time finishing. And I would say one of the hardest parts of being a striker is if you go small, the CBs in this league all are 6'6", so your strength is absolute nothing. So your speed really is negated. And then if you go 6'6" yourself, you got to have somebody else who is at that same kind of caliber to make those runs that you can play off of. That's the most difficult thing that I've found so far.
Yeah, they definitely negated speed quite a bit in this FIFA, and they made strength incredibly important, which I think has really hurt the strikers. You know, those small strikers just aren't just getting around the defenders like they did in FIFA 18.
So one position I'm actually really curious to see what you guys all think is goalie. I think goalie, there's a lot of good ones, a lot of ones who on their day can be outstanding. I think there's only a couple though that week to week, game to game, season to season have been at that level. But there's a lot of them who like kind of are in a group of like, I don't know, 15, 20 of them that like I would take in a heartbeat if they're on their shit. There's only a couple I think that are like undroppable. You sign them up without a hesitation.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead,
goalies,
Topper.
man. Yeah, goalies have been one of those positions this year to either impress or be hilarious to watch because it's either a running punch at the beginning of FIFA 19 to being able to understand what you should be pressing or not be pressing. Again, just a big systematic change for them has really weeded out who is a great GK like strikers or field of fish, and who's mediocre GKs like unnamed blanks.
They ruined the goalkeeper position, but they changed it in ways that were weird. So now if you're pressing forward when you flick your right stick, your guy goes for a Superman punch, as opposed to, if it's held, steady, and then you flick the stick, then he does the normal action. It's honestly trash. So the guys that hold LB actually flourish, which is kind of frustrating for somebody who loves the position. But
I don't.
LB holders flourish in this league, man, for sure. And then they cheat, they cheat over, they stop holding LB, they slide near post, and then they make it save. But what happens is you get guys who know how to work within those systems and are able to make the cheese work for them, and so it ends up making them look really good, which is awesome.
I have to partially disagree with that. I think LB holding compared to somebody who's just really great manual positioning, and it's just a matter of growing up as a keeper myself, they really put an emphasis on like not moving your left stick as moving your goalie, so that way when you're diving your feet are set, which is ideally what you want. You don't want your body to be moving as you're going to make a save. You want to like be set and then go to make your movement after the ball is shot. And I think that's kind of what the emphasis is on this year with goalies mechanically, is to kind of work on your steady positioning and then reacting instead of being proactive.
I mean, I agree, but what I'm saying is the LB is making it so you don't even have to think about the manual positioning. So those who do manually position, that's awesome. And kudos to them because they're less likely to get that cheese of,
Right.
diving into your own player because the lock on fails, or, tackling your own player as the ball flies over you both.
Right.
Those are the things that I love playing goalkeeper. I mean, I played in the late night league season 1, and I played pretty well. I enjoy it, but this FIFA has kind of soured me on it because I don't like to hold LB, and sometimes when I'm pressing forward to run out, I can't stop running forward and then press the right stick because the natural tendency is to press forward and also flick the right stick forward to do the action. And so if I do that, then I do the scoop. But if I don't do that and I let go, then he might do a dumb punch. So it just seems like they need a revamp, and I'm sure they are. But
Yeah, I think if you ever tuned into the marquee matchup, you've definitely seen some keepers do some wild stuff. I don't think it was necessarily the player like, oh, I'm just gonna run all the way to the sideline now. That's a good plan. I think there's definitely some tendencies in the keeper. I think we've all seen the Superman punch where it's like, what the heck is he aiming for? I just think it's a difficult position to play, and we've got 50 teams in this league, so there's approximately 50 goalies. Some people have a backup, but then you look at I guess I'm saying that in the sense that if you look at CBs, we've got at least 100 CBs. Everyone plays with at least 2. Most people play with 3. So I think if you have like 5 or 6 great goalkeepers compared to like 5 or 6 great DMs or CBs, I think that's a much better ratio to amount of players versus great ones. I think that's something we have to consider when we look at goalkeepers. And I would suggest that there is like a top 5 goalkeepers out there. So I wouldn't say it's like that far behind from other positions.
Strikers is always number 1 in my heart.
I think the last position group no one's really brought up is sort of wingers and fullbacks to a lesser extent. Obviously, that's, I think, more teams play. Maybe not more, but between teams with like 4-2-3-1s and 4-3-3s and then 3-5-2s, I think there's more wingers today than there are fullbacks. And I think it's kind of like Cam. I think the really good ones are hard to find. I think there's some solid ones, but I think it's definitely not up there with center back or DM in terms of the depth.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to fullbacks, especially with, Saul saying earlier how meta 3-5-2 has been in FIFA 19, you've seen a lot of fullbacks kind of transition into that center back role as an outside center back, simply because, there are less spots as a fullback.
Yeah, for me, hands down, that's the least depth position of any of them is the outside wingers or fullbacks. The great ones are hard to come by, and it's hard to teach someone how to do it. And you either skill too much or not at all, and you don't possess it enough. It's just a very difficult position to handle. And I just think people that are really good at it have been doing it for some time, and it's a hard position to just be like, yeah, I'm going to pick this up and it's going to be great.
Right. And I think with that outside mid role, it comes to, especially with these 3-5-2s, just having somebody, shout out to my Benfica guys, quick hitting and classy, just being able to be a great defensive minded player, but also having a simple enough mindset, possession, and going forward to make plays in the attack as well. And a lot of the times you just can't get best of both worlds.
I was just going to agree on the left mid, right mid's been difficult to find in the 3-5-2. Like Tago was saying, that you're either defensive or offensive minded. The other thing is kind of touching on what you said with the wingers, the skill, just using the right amount and not doing too much, and then turning the ball over for the quick counter. So finding those players, I would say that's the position that I've had the hardest time trying to find quality.
Yeah, and I think it's just hardest to find players who can consistently do all that role well. I'd never played in 3-5-2 until this FIFA, not full time. And every season I've been on a 3-5-2 team. And at Man City, when we were playing well, our wingers were getting up the field and causing all sorts of problems and scoring lots of goals, getting lots of assists. When we started to struggle in the second season, last season, the wingers weren't defending as much as they should have, and we just started getting exposed down the flanks. This season of Milan, we haven't had the most attacking, balls out wingers, but we've had really solid defensive ones, especially Bauer. I got to shout at him. He's a guy who's played a lot of fullback, center back, DM, so he's a kind of a more natural defensive player. And I think I mentioned this a couple podcasts ago, he just shuts down his side. So it's been interesting playing with all sorts of different kind of wingers. Ones who just want to stay up, ones who try to do both, ones who want to play more defensive. And you have to be patient because the ball might not be on your half for 10 minutes in the game.
Yeah.
That's why I can't play on the outside, is I get too damn impatient.
Yeah, that's something I struggled with. I played outside mid for a while, and I get bored at some point, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to make something happen here. And then I'm doing too much.
Yeah, when you catch your right back overlapping with your left back, you know you got some issues.
I only did that once, all right?
The other thing we kind of tinkered with as far as the winger position is because we weren't getting a whole lot of offensive production out of them. So we actually tinkered and tried using a striker build playing the winger spot to get that shooting up. But yeah, I mean, nobody in League Two is crossing, again, because the 6'6" center backs, and there's not too much of that going on. But we tried some things. I mean, some things worked, some things didn't. But
All right. Well, I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. I hope everyone at home listening enjoyed the 5th episode of the podcast for season 11. I want to thank my co-host Dorsey and all the panelists for coming out. I hope you stay safe and you enjoy your games on Wednesday. Take care, everyone.